Welcome to the Average Australian Podcast.
Oh, what a fabulous volley from Tim Cahill! You will not see a better goal than that at the World Cup this summer. Oh,
Big
great
save.
save again by
It's a
Schwarzer!
huge save.
Cahill! Tim Cahill has done it again!
Might drop for Fornaroli! Oh! That is simply brilliant!
Hello everybody and welcome back to the Average Australian Football Podcast. I am Chatondu, joined once again by Edin. We're here with episode 19 to discuss all things A-League, EPL and Champions League football. With that said, Edin, how's it going?
Yeah, good mate, good. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad. I don't know if you saw the least surprising news in the world, the FFA delay talks on the expansion, which is not at all surprising.
Yeah. Let's put our angry hats on and start another FFA tirade. Yeah, at the risk of sounding like a broken record, I think we need to talk about the FFA again because it's been in the news.
Yeah, it has. Like I highlighted that the talks about like expanding the representation, that was always going to have an impact on the A-League expansion, like in terms of teams. Like not too many organizations can focus on two things at once, it seems, and like the longer this goes on, and we've seen like the delays. Obviously, like I don't know if you've seen the actual press announcements from the FFA, but they make it sound as if they've willingly expanded their governing body.
Yeah,
like it's just also
like
pandering.
Yeah, and this is, they're trying to put a spin on it, like, like they're almost like reaching out or something. And like you said, the fact that, this calls into question their entire leadership because they've had all this time to go to cover off expansion. Like there's been so much of a push for expansion all season and they dragged their heels. They did nothing. Now they've got this issue to deal with FIFA. And all of a sudden, it's like expansions on the back burner, and it, it's just, and the whole thing about ratifying this new agreement and everything, that doesn't look like it's going that smoothly either at the moment. So I just call into question their entire leadership because it seems like they're just in a bit of a shambles at the moment.
Do you think there's literally no chance that any expansion happens next season?
It doesn't look like it. I mean, they kept promising that they would set out this criteria. We haven't heard a beat about that. Teams are ready to go. People, there's clubs that have got money. And
the Brisbane Strikers, right? They have applied for their A-League license, have completely ignored the FFA's blueprint for the expansion. So, I mean, they've realised how delayed this is, and they're trying to push through, like, without the FFA to try to, get into the, like, within the next 2 years because, like, this sort of goes into Graham Arnold mentioned about like the lack of fans at their games, but I mean it's a direct correlation between like the inertia of the league itself, right? And like fans have seen the game so many times, and like you could even talk about like home games getting moved to try to attract new audiences, and like it all has an impact on like the growth of the league.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, Sydney FC have to put their hand up a little bit there as well and not getting the crowds and stuff. But you look at the FFA, they're not marketing the A-League. There's no hype. Like the season started off quite well and they've lost it all. And like you said, a bit of that is fatigue of when you play the same team 3 times. Some of it's been poor scheduling. And that goes back to the whole thing about this ratifying this new board and all that sort of the committee and things is the clubs think and they know and they feel that they could do a better job running the league, and they're sick of the FFA not doing a good job of it, and they want to run the league themselves because they're the ones who put the money in. They're the ones that make the game go round, and they want to do it themselves. And we saw some interesting comments this week. The Melbourne Victory chairman was scathing. Yeah. Ange Postecoglou, who's employed by the FFA as a Socceroos coach, he was pretty scathing about the FFA. It's enough's enough. Like, what's going on? And it seems like now, even with this FIFA pushing them to like ratify this new committee and be more inclusive and stuff. It's like they're still trying to play the game. Like they're trying to limit the number of votes that the clubs are going to have, and the clubs pretty much. It was like a 4-hour meeting today between the FFA and the clubs, and the end result was that clubs were not happy at all. And I think the FFA they're in trouble here because they need this to be ratified, basically. Because FIFA said it has to be done by the end of March. Otherwise, we're up shit creek.
Well, they're playing chicken with our international qualification to tournaments, right? Because like it is March that it has to happen, and if these 4-hour meetings, like there was literally no clarification on anything from the 4-hour. Right. Like if this happens, like they're not meeting every week. So I mean, if this continuously happens, like March isn't that far away.
No, that's right, and that's what I'm saying is, like you said, they're bringing the whole sport into disrepute if they stuff this up, but at the same time it seems like they're not really actually willing to negotiate or compromise or anything, and if they don't get the new committee ratified come March 31st, FIFA are going to not be happy at all. So the heat is on, and there's, for whatever reason, instead of actually trying to get on board and make the changes and just deal with it, they're still trying to cling on to power and play the game and politicize everything, and that's not going to go well. So I just think they're not going about things the right way at all.
Are you, what have you made of this season, like, overall? Because we talk about the exciting, like, start to the season, Melbourne City, Tim Cahill, but do you feel like it's sort of, like, drifting along right now?
Yeah, absolutely. It has, big time. And like you said, it did start off really well. We had I think the Sydney Derby was round 1. That was like 50,000, off to a great start. Melbourne Derby round 2, Tim Cahill. That was probably another, 30, 40, 50,000, whatever it was. Awesome match. City crushed victory. Super exciting game. That was a ripper. There was a few other crackers early on as well. And it just sort of drifted off. Some of the clubs have performed poorly, but like I said, I think some of it's been fixturing. There's been a lack of hype. And again, it goes back to this, when the clubs have tried to do something, like inject something, like, Victory thought, no, let's bring in Diamante, or Wanderers thought, let's bring in Eduardo something like that. The FFA shot it down. So, I mean, I think that's the whole crux of the issue, is the clubs, they want to put more money into it, they want to market it more, they want to hype it more, and the FFA are just, I don't know, roadblocking them and not meeting them in the demands that the clubs have for the league. And that's where I think one of the big problems is, and the FFA, like I said, they're letting it slip.
I think, like, one of the biggest problems for me, like, you look at, like, local fans, like, home fans of, like, supporter groups and that, like, you can go 2 months without actually going to another home game. Like, there is, a situation where, like, if you don't go, you can lose that, like, connection, right? Like, that's all, like, I find the problematic, and it goes straight into the expansion talks, right? Because when you're playing the same teams, like, this structure of playing, like, 2 or 3 times at home and then being on the road for a month, like, I don't think that's sustainable.
Yeah, well, and that's
like,
the other thing.
They do it in ice hockey, right? Because, like, the distance of travel. But I mean, like, as far as, like, we are, like, from Perth to, Sydney and that, like, there's got to be a bit more, like, fluidity in the actual, like, home games, right? Because, like, supporter groups are getting alienated so badly, especially with, like, moving home games. Like, I find that so strange. Like, I understand, like, the Mariners and such, they have, like, a lower support group, but, like, you can't, like, punish home fans to try to, like, increase your marketing.
No, that's right. And then you see, like, the Wanderers, they've played, like, Spotless, they've played at I think Homebush, they played at
they may prefer not to play at Spotless, to be fair.
Yeah, well, to be fair, but I mean, they're moving home games. The Mariners are playing everywhere. Wellington's playing all over the place. Like you said, there's no consistency there, and then you have that thing where, like, they'll play 1 home game, then like 2 on the road, and then, or maybe even more on the road, and then you have, like, the inconsistent fixturing where, for example, like, 2 teams might play each other twice in the space of a few weeks. And then, like, they won't play each other for the first 15 rounds, and then all of a sudden in the next 12 rounds they play each other 3 times and stuff like that. And it's just, there's so many, like, issues like that you see. And
it feels very amateurish, doesn't it?
sometimes it does, and I think that's what's driving the owners mad. Like they're fuming because they see they can do a better job and they know what needs to be done. And like I said, the FFA are just botching it time after time. And, like I said, they had all this time to do something about, the expansion, and there was so much momentum for it. And now that momentum's gone. And now they're not even, and they kept promising that they were going to release this criteria in February, and now all of a sudden they've just dropped it. Like, can't they have more than one thing on the go at the same time? And I just don't understand it.
I find it really concerning, right? Because, like, the expansion of their body is very important. It should have happened years ago. But, like, the big concern for me is, like, what impact this has on the expansion. Because I think if the A-League was to stay at 10 teams, these current 10 teams, for another 2 seasons, I think that undoes every good work they did at the start of this season.
Yeah.
There hasn't been the growth that this start of the season promised. And I think if we went into the 2019 season as is, like, I would expect average league to be 8,000. Like, I think it's going to drop.
Like I said, they're losing momentum, and there's been so many calls for expansion. And I think not only that, but they're going to lose money from the broadcast deal as well. That's the other thing that they have to consider, is that their broadcasters want more fixtures, they want more matches, they want more variety. And that's another thing that's going to cost them money as well. So they just really need to, they've lost the momentum and they're in danger. And like you said, another 2 seasons. Even next season, there should already have been the expansion. The clubs are ready to go. Like, something needs to give here.
I think worst case, if you're not expanding, you need to do away with the budget. I think you need to do something radical to make teams, like, to mix teams up, because, like, if you have no expansion, something else needs to happen.
That's right. Well, and that was, the original vision of the A-League, was that you'd have one club in every city, and every club would have a marquee player, like a proper marquee, and, that would bring the fans in, and then you'd build off the back of that. But it seems like, that's just hasn't been followed. Clubs try to bring a marquee in. They want to spend the money. FFA tells them no. Like, who's the FFA to tell them if a player's a marquee or not? Like, you want to tell me that Eduardo is not a marquee in the A-League? Like, let's not kid ourselves. So, I just think it's in turmoil again. Like, just when it looked like at the start of the season things were looking good, and last season was a good season for the A-League as well, and crowds were kind of going back up, everything's in turmoil again. Like, where's the criteria for expansion? What are they going to do about ratifying this committee? The TV deal was probably less than expected. Like, don't tell me they were working on the A-League TV deal for 2 years.
They can't even agree on, like, the fee. Like, I think the A-League clubs are getting 3 mil. They want 6, which I think is excessive, but, like, it should be 4 or 5, and they're nowhere near an agreement.
Well, and that goes to the point of why they want to run the league, because they're not getting their fair share of the slice of the TV deal. Why, all of the money from the TV deal should be going back into the league, but it's not. Some of it's going to the FFA. So that comes down to it again, that they're not, they're taking money from the league, but they're not investing it back in there, and they're not letting the league grow. And, some of these owners are bleeding a lot of money. I know Tony Sage from the Glory always talked about it. He'd lose a couple of mil a season, but he just kept doing it because he loved it. If these guys stop putting the money in, the league's going to collapse. And the FFA's just been giving them, the shaft for so long. And, like I said, I'm just flabbergasted. Like, the criteria for expansion, we were kept being told February. Where is it? Like, even, you've got to concentrate on the committee, but still release the criteria. Do you know what I mean?
I don't think there's any chance it happens next
season.
They
haven't done anything. We're the ones here, like, trying to keep these guys honest, but, and that was the other thing, I'm still not seeing enough in the media about this. Like, the Gallup and Lowy people should be tearing shreds off them. Like, this is
nothing happens.
Poor performance.
Like, the FFA, they post their press announcement. It gets retweeted from the Hyundai A-League Twitter account. It goes on the FFA's Twitter account, and then there's no reaction to it.
Yeah, I'm not seeing any commentary, and where, there should be some scathing opinions. We're the ones. We're the bastions here of, like, trying to keep the FFA honest and ask these questions, because like you said, I'm not seeing anybody else asking them. So disappointing all round.
Yeah, outside of us and like the Reddit is pretty good actually, but like in the media, like I want to see articles, I want to see pressure, and until pressure's there, like I don't know, it's so frustrating, and we can't keep talking about the same thing every week, but like something needs to change.
I'm sick of I'm sick of sounding like a broken record, but yeah, I mean, it's just an ongoing issue, and I think we're going to be talking about a lot more, because up until the end of March, until this stuff goes through, we're just going to have to keep talking about it, because it's going to be a dynamically changing situation, I think, week to week now.
What do you think changes next season, if anything? Like, I don't think expansion is going to happen. Do you think we'll see a restructure of like the budget? Like, because teams do get the money next season, right? That still has to be agreed upon, obviously.
That's right. I think, there has to be a bit of a bigger salary cap, and look, I don't know.
You think there still will be a salary cap?
I think there will. I think as long as the FFA is in control, there will be. The clubs, I think, want to get rid of it, but that needs to be boosted. There's so many things, like the squad size. The squad's only 23 players. Like,
it needs to be 25,
it's not enough. You know what I mean? Like, there's so many things that need to happen. I don't know. Like, I don't know what's going to happen next season. It really all depends on, it's been a good season in terms of the quality of the football. But like you said, the hype and the momentum seems to have been lost, and that's a worry. And I put a lot of that blame at the feet of the FFA. But, and there was another thing, actually, I think, that they've been criticised about, is that they were also supposed to lay out some things about the W League as well, which I think they've just dropped, like completely dropped as well. So
I actually watched the grand final. That was pretty good.
Yeah, I watched a little bit of it as well. I thought it was really good. And now you see like things are heating up there's an AFL Women's League now.
Do you see the crowds they're pulling? That's a big concern for the A-League.
It is, because if you look at it, I mean, if out of any like male-dominated sport, to have the women's version, football's probably the best. Because it's not violent, it's not physical, do you know what I mean? Like, it's still very much just skill-based.
Relatable.
Yeah.
It translates more. Yeah.
I think, probably along with maybe basketball, like you think football, like AFL, I can't see women's AFL being as good as the men's, just because of like the brutality and the physicality of the game and stuff like that.
The pace of it, the speed, yeah.
Especially like, and rugby league as well, whereas I think football, the women's product can be like very good, like very, very good.
Easily. They can be just as technical,
and so for, again, that's another one that they've dropped the bundle on. So I'm sick of talking about it, honestly. Let's talk about some football. Like, we'll come back to this next week, I'm sure.
If we want to talk about dropping the ball, I think we got to start with Sydney v Wellington. What is happening to Wellington? Wellington, sorry, they haven't won since the victory game. I thought after that, they were going to cruise into the top six. They've completely gone off a cliff, sort of like Adelaide have. And Sydney, I mean, what do you say about them, right? Like, Ninkovic continuously good. They've extended their lead at the top. There's no question that they're not going to finish first. Still question marks over some of their key strikers not scoring goals. Bobo did score though. What do you make of the game, especially Wellington? What do you see for them for the rest of the season?
Wellington, I think, gone. Write them off. They're finished. They're just going to be cannon fodder, I think, for the rest of the season. Sydney, on the other hand, just still so good. And look, that wasn't even the greatest pitch that they were playing on there on the weekend as well, and they were still just sublime, I thought. Ninkovic, amazing. Nothing's really changed, I think, for them week to week now. They're just looking for that undefeated finish to the end of the season, and then it's finals time. I think the only question is, interestingly, I have seen a little bit of criticism against Sydney in the sense that people are pretty much saying they're not, it's not that they're playing amazing football. It's just that they're kind of, A, really consistent, B, got a lot of depth in the squad, and they just, they're playing really, really well, but it's not like they're playing some sort of amazing tactics or super sexy football or anything like that. So I'm just curious, what do you make of that?
I was going to bring that up really because, like, is the big strikers in the league, the key strikers, is it too much to expect them to score almost a goal a game? Like, obviously, Barasha's on 14 out of 19. I think he scored 5 or 6 from the penalty spot, those which like inflates the stat. But the thing that with Sydney is like, you see like their strikers like Bobo, Brosk, they go through these like real dry spells, and it does translate into Sydney's like overall performance. And you'll see games where they'll score like a quick fire 2. They did it against Wellington, I think, in 9 minutes. They scored twice and pretty much put the game to bed. And they've done that a lot. But, I mean, an 8-minute period of a 90-minute game, you can look at Sydney and go, they're very clinical, they're very structured, tactical, but maybe not the most entertaining to watch. Maybe that's not fair because they're undefeated, but, like, I don't find their games the most entertaining. I didn't this week.
No, well, and that's the thing. I mean, that I think that is a genuine criticism. I think when they're good, they are really good. Like Ninkovic, sublime through balls. You can thread the pass. They can knock it around really well. But like you said, it just seems to be like they're just a brick wall, super hard to break down. And then it's just bang, 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 3-0 and it's all over. And like you said, if you look at their goal tally, it's pretty even. It's not like Bobo or Brosk has really sort of dominated. It's really more just that they've got a super solid defense, strong midfield, and they're clinical. They finish their chances and they put them away, but would you put them up there with maybe, the Brisbane Roar of a few years ago, or even like a Melbourne Victory when they've just sort of been like ultra attacking? I don't know. I think maybe that is a fair criticism against Sydney a little bit. They're kind of like the Chelsea, I guess, of the A-League or something.
I think it would depend on how successful their finals campaign is. If they lose, like, say, to Victory and get knocked out pretty early, like, I don't think people are going to rate them as good as Brisbane because I think Brisbane were far more entertaining. I think Sydney are far more clinical. I could see Sydney doing the same thing in Asia in the Champions League. I could see them doing the same thing to like even the big teams that we saw Brisbane beat, like the Carlos Tevez team very well. And I could see Sydney doing that. But I don't think it's unfair to say that a Sydney FC with all their key players striking beat Wellington by 6 or 7, and we've never seen them all show up at the same night and really put a team to the sword. I mean, 3-1, very comfortable. They looked in control almost the whole game, but I don't know, maybe our expectations of Sydney are a little bit higher and they're not reaching those high expectations.
Oh, yeah, and that's what I think. I think at the end of the day, they are very good, and that's the kind of things that wins you trophies. But from a neutral point of view, maybe, like you said, we'd want more entertainment, more attack. But if you're a Sydney FC fan,
you'd be loving it.
Or the Sydney FC coach, you'd be loving it. So, you got to take that on board as well. That number one aim is just to win the title, and they're doing that. At the moment anyway.
At a canter, yeah.
Yeah, at a canter, but I think maybe not that much of a surprise, but still somewhat surprising. Adelaide v Perth Glory, 5-0. What do you make of this? The Glory boys are back, surely. Like, they're back in town now, the Glory.
Are they back, or are Adelaide just that bad?
Oh, Adelaide were woeful. I'll say this. Adelaide were, and I wrote this in the article as well, just when you thought it couldn't get any lower, like, that it couldn't get any worse for Adelaide, they found a new low again. Like, that Jacopola Rocca header, the bullet header, like, was that deliberate? That? Was that deliberate?
It looked like
just like, you know what? We need to lose this game. Let me just bury this one in the back of the net. Like, that was like a Tim Cahill just bang into the back of the net.
I don't. Do you think Amor's gone? Do you think he's actually going to leave like mid-season, even with the Asian Champions League going?
I don't know what's going on there anymore. Like, and that's the other thing. Like, it seemed like even though they were going pretty badly towards the start of the season, it was still like, it's all about getting Amor re-signed and back for another season. Only now in like the last few weeks now the talk has cooled, and now they're kind of like, we'll leave it to the end of the season. I got to ask you, how is this guy not sacked? Like, how is he not sacked yet? I mean, okay, you won the title.
Well, it's the same going to the EPL, like Ranieri. Like, I guess winning the title I suppose like similar to Adelaide, right? They weren't expected to win it, and if you win the title as a team outside of the favourites, then you get given a lot of time post that to continue the success. But yeah, like I do question like you saw it get mentioned like how he's like missing his family and like his son's playing professionally or trying to, and like you see these things only come up when the teams are doing bad. These things only seem to matter when a team is losing.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. And look, I mean, like you said, winning the title and stuff, it does buy you a little bit of time. And, it would be unfair to maybe sack him until the end of the season or I guess not renew the contract. But, geez, it just looks like I think he's mentally checked out himself, and like you said, he's probably got other things weighing on his mind. And two, the players aren't playing for him. The players aren't fighting for him, I don't think, anymore now, because 5-0, the Glory just crushed them. Like, there was no spine at all from Adelaide.
It doesn't seem to be hurting Adelaide players. Like, you look at the halftime, I think it was 3-0, and then you look at the post-game interviews, and like it seems to just brush off them. It doesn't seem to actually hurt them, the performance, which shows me that the dressing room's gone and they're just waiting for the season to end.
I think so, yeah. I mean, this is horrible for them. 2 wins, 11 points for the season. They got Champions League coming up. This is going to get ugly. I saw they topped up with a few signings. Who did they pick up? They picked up that a Korean player, I think.
The African as well, Papa Diakar, whatever his name is, yeah.
Yeah, I just think they've got like dud written all over them, those signings.
If they're good, what can they do?
Yeah, what can they do?
Like, what influence can they possibly have? Even if this Papa striker just like lights up the remaining 8-9 games, maybe he can put them through the Champions League group. But I mean, even past that point, like, what is the goal for? Like, I'm surprised new players are joining. Like, what is the ambition for this second half of the season?
That's right, and that's I think what the fans were questioning as well. Like, what's going on? Like, who's doing the signings? What's going on? Like, there's just they've lost their way. Adelaide.
Exactly right. If Amor's gone, like, who is signing these players? Like, if he knows he's leaving, then why sign anyone?
That's right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's right. If they're not renewing his contract, why are they signing these kind of like sort of older, mature players just for,
they're not youth. Yeah, like, it's not someone they can build a team around. Like, who are they signing him for? Like, who's this next manager?
It's a shambles, I think, at the moment. They've completely lost it. I mean, they could have really built on last season's momentum, but we saw it at the start of the season. Poor signings, and I knew they were going to struggle, but I didn't think it would be this bad. This was just pathetic, 5-0. But how about the Glory boys? I think I'll go back.
How about
to it
Reece
again.
Williams?
Yeah,
where's he come from? What is going on?
It is, and it's like you said, it's like a new signing. He's laid off the Twitter, and
he has. I haven't seen him tweet.
Back. He's back.
What do you make of his performances? Right, he's still showing the bit of the I don't care attitude, the face, the beard, and the scruffy hair. Like, he doesn't seem to. Doesn't seem like he's had a good time of it lately. But I think so. Yeah. What about Diego Castro though? Like, easily the best player in the last, I'd say, 6 weeks, right? At least maybe Marco Rojas would argue that, but
no, I think he's overtaken. I think Rojas has gone a little bit quiet, just a little bit. Ninkovic is still there or thereabouts, but the thing, Castro has just really taken it by the scruff of the neck now. Like, every game in the last few, he just dominates single-handedly. He's instrumental in everything. And he's scoring a lot of goals. That was on the weekend now. That was his 20th goal in basically 1.5 seasons.
They're only 3 goals behind victory now, which seems amazing.
Yeah, Castro, and I'll buy into that. If Castro was playing for Sydney FC, geez, you would not hear the end of it. Like, I mean, he is that good, and I think he's as good as he was last season, possibly better, which is saying something. I thought at the start of this season he was gone.
I think they're relying on him even more this season than they did last season, and he was incredible last season.
That's right, and you see the way he's just in the middle of the park there, pulling all the strings. He scores clutch goals. And goals out of nowhere as well. Like, he's not just there for the tap-in or something. Like, he really scores them from outside the box and makes a lot of things happen.
He was
I think
fantastic on the Keo goal
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, and Keo, and he's finding Keo, he's finding Taggart, he's getting those guys involved. I think Rory can do some damage here. I think we called it a couple of weeks ago. They had the blip against the Mariners, who are almost like their bogey side now this season, or they have been. They only got 1 point.
I don't think it's even the
matches.
Mariners. I think it's just the away fixtures. I think that's the big concern.
And a little bit of that as well, probably. But they're so red hot at home at the moment. And they're 2 points off third spot. I think they can make a late
They play
run
Brisbane this
here.
week at home.
Yeah, wow. I mean, that's huge.
So, they could go above them. Yeah.
They could go above them. I think there's such a massive goal scoring threat. I mean, yeah, still their defending is not that great. And they can lead goals, but, finals, when it's a shootout, wow, watch out, because if Castro can keep this form going and so can Taggart, and you've still got Keo there as well, I think they can really do some damage for the rest of this season. I'm psyched to have the Glory kind of back in the league and making an impact again.
They're a bit of a dark horse now, I think.
I think so, yeah, big time.
Yeah, you wouldn't want to get them in the first round of finals, I don't think. One of the teams that will probably get them played each other on the weekend. Melbourne City, Brisbane Roar. I assume people realise that obviously Melbourne City had like 7 or 8 first-team players out. Brisbane started very strongly. Credit to Melbourne City, though. I mean, it's probably the best they've looked for a while, and they had half their youth team involved.
That's right.
Also on the refereeing, I thought both penalties was very poor. And the second goal was offside, right?
Yeah.
So
horrible refereeing. I didn't want to make mention of it this week in the article just because I think it's
been said 1,000 times.
Yeah, otherwise every point in every article would be like point 1 something about the FFA, point 2 something about the referees. But those 2 penalties were just shocking.
I guess thankfully they had one each, right? It didn't influence the game
and it was
much.
almost like the second one was like a square up or something. But they were bad decisions. Credit to City that their players hung in there and I think they just got lucky a little bit with Brisbane fading after the Champions League. Which, by the way, what a result that was.
Fantastic game to watch.
Yeah, I thought Brisbane were really good. Like, they could have had a few more. I think Shanghai had a couple of chances, but Brisbane were just really good. And the goals were clinical. Like, they really put them away. I think Tevez might be thinking, what the hell have I got myself into here? They've dropped 100 mil on a player, and it basically came down to a knockout game to see whether they'd be in the Champions League or not, and they fumbled it, Shanghai. So
I tell you what, Borello made a lot of those key foreign players look pretty average.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, him and Tommy Orr as well. Like, yeah, they were superb. Like, but I think that cost them then against City. There, they faded. I think towards the end, which is understandable. Because I think they were even saying, with the budget that Brisbane Roar have, they couldn't get a direct flight to Melbourne from China because it would have cost them.
You think the FFA would help them out there?
Well, and this is another thing that, to get back to our favourite topic, FFA have come into criticism here because they've refused to change fixtures and things. Apparently, like in the Chinese League, Japanese League, Korean League, the league will move fixtures around to accommodate the clubs in the Champions League. FFA hasn't done that.
England don't even do that, but yeah, I agree. Every league should help their national teams as much as possible.
I think so. And so that's a little bit of criticism, but it also just shows you, the budgets that Brisbane Roar are working with compared to Shanghai, that it would have cost them an extra $35,000 to fly direct to Melbourne. They couldn't afford it. I mean, that's the reality of it. And meanwhile, Shanghai are paying Tevez $1 million a week, and yet Brisbane Roar were like way better than Shanghai. Way better.
Very strong. Yeah.
Very good. But
it's frustrating.
I think it cost them City.
Yeah, do you think, like, the actual draw itself, the loss of 2 points, like, what does it mean? Like, I don't think they're going to catch Melbourne victory, even if they won. So, I mean, like, 3rd or 4th, do you think there's a chance they slip out of the top 4 altogether? Like, I still rate them, like, much, like, highly above Melbourne City.
I think so. Yeah, I mean, I think Glory are more of a threat now, really. To be fair, I think Glory are a shot. Like you said, for the Glory, it just really comes down to their away form, and if they can pick up points away. Melbourne City, I can't see them doing anything anymore. Something's happened there, and they've lost it. They've lost the momentum.
I think it's just the curse of the interim manager. I don't think having someone that the players know isn't there long term, I think that's very disruptive. Same with Adley. Like, they know he's leaving, and this period before he leaves is always nothing happens.
Yeah, look, I think there's a little bit of that, but you would have thought, for a club like City, there's still plenty to play for, in the sense that there is finals, they can still win something. But they
don't be shocked if they do well in finals. Don't be shocked if they have a good finals campaign.
Well, look, I mean, they have that ability in that they can score goals. If guys like Fornaroli or Cahill are on song, then yeah, they can still probably beat anyone. But I think Glory are more of a threat now to the Raw than Melbourne City are. And that's why, like you said, this weekend's fixture is going to be huge, I think.
Should be a fun game. What do you make of the Wanderers, the Mariners? Tony Popovich still thinks they can win the grand final. I'm not sure what it's going to take for him to lower his expectations, because the simple fact is that the Wanderers can't play at home. They're just not performing well enough. And, I mean, don't discredit the Mariners. Like, Roy O'Donovan is absolutely turning this league like a light, and like people aren't giving him the credit he deserves.
Is he the filthiest player? Is he the filthiest player in the league at the moment, though? Like, off the ball?
I think him and Brandan, if you put him in a room together, like, there'd be body parts everywhere. Like, I really think there'd be some gruesome scenes involved.
And then maybe just throw Barisha in there. Barisha and Bruzanis, is it? Just throw them in for a little bit of fun.
The cleanup crew.
They're like your reservoir dogs of the A-League. But I think the difference is, like, Buzanis and Barisha and even Brandan, they're more hotheads in the sense, and they verbalise and they like to.
Do you think O'Donovan's calculated?
I think O'Donovan's just dirty at some, like.
Do you think he's going to get done for his actions? I read your article and you implied.
I was expecting it. I haven't heard anything. Cited for that. No, I haven't either. I was expecting he would get cited for that. I thought he stuffed it up here. He's gone for another week or two, because that looked pretty dirty. And of course there was the headbutt, and I just think he can't control himself at the moment. But I think that this does him a disservice, because he's a really good striker, like really good.
Very clinical.
That second goal was sublime.
Yeah, it was fantastic. The chip, like, people like that, they just don't give him the credit, because that chip is not easy, and he made it look so simple. What surprised me was Santlab started on the bench. Like, the Wanderers not want to win games. Like, he seems to be their only striker, only player that, like, can clinically score on a regular basis, and to put him on the bench against the Mariners, who have been in good form, it just seems like you shoot yourself in the foot.
Yeah, and then they signed Ryan Griffiths.
What's he done?
Didn't even make the squad. Well, he didn't even make the squad. So again, this is Tony Popovich. Like, he's come under a bit of heat this season, and I think rightly so. Again, like, they can't win at home. He keeps going on about, oh yeah, we're so good and this and that. He's chopping and changing the team week in, week out. How you go into a campaign without they put all their eggs in the Bullet basket, and that didn't work out. But where's your backup? I mean, you look at Sydney FC, they got Brosk, Babot, Ibini, and Matt Simon. They got 4 strikers. Wanderers had Bullet and Santalab. And
Santalab is not even a striker, really. He's like a number 9.
Yeah,
he's like a number 9, like a behind the striker.
Well. Yeah, and so they put all their eggs in the Bullet basket. Like, are you kidding me? That has to go to Popovich. So that's just poor recruitment. And like I said, he's just chopping and changing a side week in, week out. give credit to the Mariners. Like, they're good. That's 3 wins in a row now.
Do you think this ultimately leads to nothing though? Because like they got to get above Perth Glory or the Newcastle Jets. I mean, they kept their first clean sheet in like 27 games, which is, shows that they defensively need to improve. But like, I feel like even like they could go on this run. I'm not sure who they play next week. Let me double check. I think they play. Yeah, Melbourne Victory at home, and then they play the Newcastle Jets, right? So it's a massive 2 weeks. It's the direct competition, and I get it'll be interesting against the Victory, but like, yeah, I'm not sure how they're gonna go with that overall getting above the Newcastle Jets or Perth Glory.
And look, and I think at the end of the day, it might still be a bridge too far for them, but for them, I think it's all about building for next season now, because they've got plenty of youngsters. Every game for them is a learning experience. And I think it's all about just building momentum for next season now. So I think if they can make a late surge and, get there or thereabouts, I think it's going to give their fans a lot of hope for next season. And then it's really all about just recruiting the right mix for next season. I think key to that will be hanging on to O'Donovan. And he's
out of contract, right?
He's out of contract, and I think he's pretty much said he wants to see some more quality at the Mariners, so that they can actually do some damage next season. So I think for them it's all about building for next year. But you look at them, it's the momentum and the direction that they're heading in, and it's good. So I think
looks more positive in Wellington, Adelaide, and I'd suggest Wanderers at the minute.
I think so. And look, I wouldn't write them off completely because they just got a little bit of spark about them now. But at the end of the day, like you said, to get past Glory and the Jets might just be too much. But having said that, they're only one win away from overtaking the Jets and moving into 6th place.
I think the big question mark is like they love playing Perth Glory, but we need to see them have that sort of commitment against like another top team, like a Brisbane or a Melbourne City, or even a Newcastle Jets. They play them in 2 weeks. I mean, they've got to beat teams like this if they want to make the finals, right?
Yeah, it will be interesting to see how they go up against like the Victory. I think that'll be a litmus test for them now. How they're going to go up against a really sort of top quality side that's making a tilt for the finals. So that'll be the one. But I think they'll put in a good performance. I just don't know if they'll have enough quality. But the momentum's with them at the moment, so anything can happen.
What about the final game? Meant to be on the Saturday, got moved because of the heat, which was a correct decision. The weekend was absolutely incredible. I'm not sure how you survived. Was it 46 degrees or something?
Oh, it was absolutely ridiculous over here. Yeah, it was just ridiculous, to tell you the truth. Just sort of stay inside, turn the aircon on, and do not move.
Well, if it makes you feel better, it was raining over here, so that was quite comfortable actually. But the Newcastle Jets victory.
Glad you enjoyed it.
Oh, it was nice. I had a jumper on and everything. The Jets' first clean sheet in 16 matches. Victory's only the second time this season they failed to score in a match, which is quite telling. And I think they have, in terms of goal scoring, just died off a little bit. We've seen that with a few teams this season. What do you make of the game? I thought Newcastle controlled most of the possession. I think Victory had the better chance. They hit the post. But overall, I thought this game would explode, but it didn't, which is surprising.
I had high hopes for it as well. I thought it was going to be a real blockbuster and a real shootout, and it was played that way, but just the sides weren't clinical enough, I guess. And Victory just looked flat. They just looked off the boil. Like, Barisha was quiet. Rojas didn't do much. I thought the Jets were good and they controlled it, and they had their chances as well. So I think it's a better point for Newcastle than it is for Melbourne Victory. But maybe Jets would actually be disappointed that they couldn't get all 3 points because Victory looked flat and weak and a little bit uninterested. And like you said, they're just kind of slowly losing momentum at the wrong time for Victory now.
It's just, what does this realization that they're not going to finish first mean for their squad? Because there is there's 7 games until the finals. Brisbane probably aren't close enough for that to be a motivation to stay away from them. So it's an interesting couple of weeks of Victory as they try to reassess where they are, what their goal is, and it's. I think this waiting period is going to, influence quite a few teams because you saw it with Melbourne City, right? Like there's like now they've got something to play for, like this top 4 position. But I mean, until that happens, that threat is real and evident. You don't see some teams, they just don't find that motivation.
Yeah, that's right. And I think there is still probably motivation to at least finish second and get yourself into a good position. But it does sort of beg the question, with sort of 8 games to go, and you kind of know pretty much you're going to finish second, what goes through the players' heads in terms of, are they just, self-preservation, don't get injured, that kind of stuff. So I don't think Victory are that kind of side. I think they do want to win every game, but they've just gone off the boil a little bit. And I think a lot of that's to do with Rojas, because he's really been the key for them all season. And it seems like if he's not performing, then they struggle a little bit, and that's what might have happened there on the weekend. But I still think when they're on song, they're pretty devastating. So, maybe just a little blip on the radar. I think they'll be looking to turn things around this week.
I don't think the point hurts either team. Newcastle Jets obviously still in an interesting position because of the Wanderers and even Wellington and Central Coast. Just a game behind them, but I don't know, for some reason I feel like Newcastle are comfortable in 6th right now, even though the table suggests otherwise. Yeah, I could agree with that. Speaking of Newcastle Jets, they play the bottom of the ladder, the no hope Adelaide United. They will have their new signings for whatever that's worth. Plays on the Friday at home again. What do you think, Adelaide pick up a point, or do you think Newcastle will get back to scoring and just put 4 or 5 past them like the Glory did?
Yeah, I think Newcastle Jets will win this. I just think United are at a real low ebb at the moment. Like I said, unless those new recruits can get a bit of spark going, this could be really bad for Adelaide. And the momentum's with the Jets. I'm going to tip a Jets win on this one.
Yeah, I think if the game was on a Sunday and the new signings had just a few more days, I think maybe Adelaide could sneak a draw, but I think because it's on the Friday, I think this will be a 1 week too early to see what sort of positive impact the signings have. So I expect Newcastle Jets to probably win 2-0.
So, Adelaide's going to burn.
Yep, they're going to burn once again, and I think they're on track for, will they get more than 15 points in the season?
Yeah,
I think they're going to stick under that.
Wow.
As for another team struggling, Wellington play Melbourne City at home on Saturday at 5:35. Phoenix have kind of slipped up at home recently. Melbourne City far from convincing, but I think against Brisbane they were strong, so I expect them to get back. We need to see a few goals from City, I think.
I think so, and this one's a little bit different because, again, Phoenix at home, they are a different prospect. And like you said, Melbourne City just hasn't been going well for them. Can they go to Wellington and get 3 points? I don't think so. I think a draw at best for Melbourne City in this one. Phoenix, as bad as they've been, at home they're still all right, and I think a lot of that probably even just depends on how the other side travels. But I just think Melbourne City, I'm yet to be convinced that they've turned any sort of corner. I'm going to tip a draw on this one.
Yeah, I think it'll be very tight, low scoring. Whether the ref decide to give Melbourne City a penalty or not, I think it'll be very tight. I'll go with a draw, but I could see Melbourne City just sneaking a 1-0. Yeah, maybe. I'm sticking with the draw. And the next game, you go into this one, another Sydney derby for the fans?
No, I think I'll be skipping this one. It might be a bit too dangerous for me over there. But I think they're expecting a big crowd on this one, 50,000, which is a testament to the derby, because when
is it really meant to be that full again?
Yeah. I mean, look, it is an event. It is an event, but I'm a little bit surprised just because of the fact that I think Wanderers, despite whatever Popovich is saying, like, they haven't got a chance in hell of making the finals, let alone the grand final. But a derby is always special, so I think it'll be interesting. And again, it's puts pressure on Sydney FC in a big game, and especially with derbies, anything can happen. But again, I'm gonna tip a Sydney FC win on this one.
I think the Wanderers could play Sydney 8 times in a row, just repeat this fixture over and over again, and they wouldn't get a draw in any of them. I think Sydney are going to smash them. I really do.
I can't see where the Wanderers are going to get the goals from unless there's some sort of derby moment where there's a
shenanigans.
Something like that. Yeah. Sydney FC win for me.
We're going to see any rubber snakes, you think?
No.
Or they're going to progress to floaty snakes in the air?
I think that's over. I think if anything, the Wanderers should be more worried about their own players at this stage, because
especially if they're going to make the grand final.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. It all starts this weekend. But I think
the resurgence.
I think they're going to cop it big time from Sydney.
Yeah, I think it'll be a 3-0, pretty comfortable.
Yeah.
What about the match of the round? Perth Glory, Brisbane Roar in Perth.
Oh, yeah. Look, to be fair, I think this is the match. Even though you've got the Sydney Derby, I think this is the match of the round.
I think the Sydney Derby is just predictable in that, we just because the Wanderers' form, if they were performing better, the game would have added value. But
I think so.
Perth and Brisbane both have looked good recently. Brisbane, obviously the slip up, but looked great in the Champions League. McLaren obviously scoring twice. Perth Glory. It's so difficult to know how they're going to defend against a top team. They obviously kept Adelaide out, but this is a whole different kettle of fish, different type of striker. Do you see Perth Glory getting the clean sheet against Brisbane, or do you think this is going to be a high-scoring game?
Yeah, I don't know if I can see a clean sheet for the Glory, but I think they can win it. I think it might be like a 3-2 or something like that. I think there's going to be a ripper game. Tough to call. Tight one. Brisbane are good, and they've shown that they're hard to break down. They're relatively clinical, and that they just don't concede many goals. But Glory at the same time, just recently, are just red hot. They're a goal scoring machine. This is going to be a cracker of a game. I think I'm expecting a shootout, and I think Glory just 3-2. Something similar to that.
Yeah, I think there's no chance this game ends in scoreless. I think both teams have shown a willingness to attack, which should make for an exciting game. I think Perth will edge it, but I would not be surprised if it's like a 2-2 draw.
It could be as well, yeah. I just think we're going to see a lot of goals, and I just hope the Glory can get a big crowd out. I think the momentum
surely
building.
They should.
They should, and they've had a few good crowds already this season, and I think the fans are liking what they're seeing. I like to see hopefully 12 to 14,000 for this one. This is the game of the round. This is an absolute belter, I think.
It's a huge game. I was actually surprised. I was looking at the table earlier this afternoon, and I didn't realise that Perth Glory was 6 ahead of Newcastle.
Yeah, they've really built a gap.
Such a gap now. Yeah, they really have.
They have, yeah. So, look, there's everything to play for here for both sides, but especially for the Glory. If they can get over the line here against Brisbane, all of a sudden, they're going to be real contenders.
Yeah, it should be a fantastic game. What about the Sunday game? Central Coast Mariners hosting Melbourne Victory. The Mariners looking for 4 in a row. I can't even know when the last time they did that was. Probably the 1900s. Do you think to give him a chance against Victory? O'Donovan has been,
I do. Like I said, it all comes down to O'Donovan, I guess, in the service to him. But also Victory, are they just in a little mini slump, or is it going to keep going on for them? That's the other one. You'd like to think that they're going to bounce back here and get over the Mariners. And like I said, last week we said 3 in a row. That might be just a one game too many for the Mariners. But now we're saying 4 in a row. Maybe that's too many. You never say never now with the Mariners. But against Victory, Victory is second on the ladder for a reason. They've been pretty
insane that they haven't won in their last 3 away fixtures.
That's right. And
the last win was in the 7th of January against Adelaide. So
yeah, it all started with that glut of fixtures when they had the Phoenix game midweek, and that really killed off all of it. Before that, all of a sudden we were saying, can Victory catch Sydney FC and take out the league? And it all just fell apart for them after that. They didn't handle that bunch of fixtures really well, and they've just completely lost momentum since then. But I think, they should go in. They should still be going in as favourites, but I would just say be careful of the Mariners, because at the moment they're red hot. They know their game plan. They stick to it, and they've been executing it quite well. 4 in a row again I might be too much. I'm going to tip the Victory, but only just?
Yeah, I actually think Mariners are going to win.
Ooh.
I think Victory are in a slump. I think it's purely because they've realised that Sydney are unattainable, and I think there'll be an adjustment that'll take probably another week for them to get over. And Mariners have been in great form. I think they've got to limit Victory's goal scoring chances because Victory can put 3 or 4 past them. The Mariners aren't defending that well. So, yeah, I think Mariners will win, and I think it'll be a tight game, probably 1-0.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll see.
And I'd love to give you the tally of our tipping, but I haven't done that since about round 15. So
yeah, let's just say we've probably been getting about 1 right a week anyway. So I'm probably on
next season 8. Resolution.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. We'll document just how bad we are. Anything
else A-League related you want to
talk about? Let's move on to the EPL, I think. Some interesting results there on the weekend. What did you make of the week's results there?
I think the big result was Liverpool comfortably putting Spurs away, and I think Swansea comfortably putting Leicester away. Both teams very impressive in their games. I don't think the results, like with Chelsea dropping points against Burnley, I don't think it changes too much. I think Man City had a good week, but then their striker Gabriel Jesus has got injured for 3 months. So
well,
I mean,
Pep's praying for him. So that's that's all. Yeah, I mean, look, the big one was Liverpool-Tottenham, wasn't it? I mean, Liverpool are just all over the shop at the moment, aren't they? Like, you know, they produced that 1 week, and then, you know, the week before that, they're horrible. I mean, what's going on?
I think it's just a mentality and preparation. They seem to have the ability to fire themselves up for the big games, but I don't know, maybe it's Klopp, maybe it's his setup. They don't have tactically good enough to execute their plan to beat the lower teams, but I think they're in a good spot. I don't see anyone catching Chelsea, so right now for them it's just about finishing the top 4, letting Klopp build a Champions League quality squad and see how they go next season. But yeah, things looking good for them.
And they are, and that's the thing, you know. But I mean, when they're good, they are good, and you know, to beat Tottenham 2-0 is no mean feat. I mean, that's a big result. But to go from losing to Hull 2-0 to then beating Tottenham 2-0, you got to question that. So I don't know, question, I guess, Klopp or the mentality or something, because they're just all over the shop.
Well, people overrate how good Liverpool's squad is. Like, don't get me wrong, Firmino, Mane, Coutinho, very good attacking midfielders. Probably the best depth in the league from an attacking sense. But they don't really have a key striker. Like Sturridge has not performed injury prone. So, I mean, if they brought in like a central striker, you know, someone like Suarez and Aguero, then their team would look like a title challenging team. But, I mean, give Klopp some time. Their midfield needs to improve. And I just think he needs a few more transfer windows, and I think you'll see that the Liverpool team will challenge for a title again.
Yeah, I think, you know, this is really for them. Again, it's probably all about building for next season. But, yeah, I guess the other question then is, are Leicester going down now?
Yeah, I think they really are. And I'm like Ranieri, I don't know if you saw his comments, but he actually went out and blamed the players, and I think, like, if you're going to take credit for your success in the title, then you've got to take some of the blame when that same team is performing as bad as it is. And I think, like, they're not, like, it obviously, Vardy has just gone off the map.
Mahrez hasn't done much. He couldn't hit the side of a barn door at the moment.
No, like, Vardy? 3 barns stacked on top of each other, to be honest. Like, he's like, I don't know what's going with him. I don't know if it's like a thing where he's, like, got his paycheck and now he's just chilling. I'm not sure what's going on. And, Leicester are going down. I really think they are.
Do you think, I mean, they're in genuine trouble now. They're 1 point above the relegation zone. And it's really bunched up now that Sunderland and Palace have kind of brought themselves up a little bit. and really.
What do those teams have in common? They've all brought in new managers. You've seen Swansea, the Real Madrid assistant manager Paul Clement. He's come in, transformed the team in the short time. We've seen Hull, I think was his name, Marco Silva. He's come in, looked very impressive, and Leicester are just ambling along. Nothing's changed. Their new signings haven't performed enough, and they're in a stasis. And I don't see how they're getting out of this.
Yeah, and look, I mean, against Swansea, like you said, that's a 6-pointer if there's ever been one for Leicester, and they just fumbled it. And like you said, this probably goes to what we were talking about with Adelaide United as well, in that sense that when you win the league, it buys you more time. And obviously, the club has a bit of respect for the manager now and stuff like that. But is that actually to their detriment? Like, is that actually costing them? Should they just go, you know what, we really have to get rid of you? Because if we have, at the end of the day, the club's bigger than the manager. And if the club is to have any chance of staying up, then the manager has to go. And that seems to be the case with both Adelaide and Leicester, is that they're just dragging it on for too long. And obviously in Adelaide's case, there's no relegation, but the same thing's happening. It's like it's not getting any better. There's no sign of improvement whatsoever. And just because the managers won the title the year before, they're letting it go on for too long.
Yeah, I think the big difference between Adelaide and Leicester are that, as you said, Leicester can get relegated, and the financial implications of that is far damaging. I mean, you lose 100 mil a year just from the TV rights itself. You lose the ability to sign the quality of player you expect. You'd assume that 3 or 4 will leave just purely by not playing in the Premier League. You look at the wage structure. I mean, that's increased now because they won the title. I mean, this could keep them away from the Premier League for 10 years easily. The thing with Adelaide is they have a bad season. They can bring a new manager in, try to rebuild, and there's no, real negative about finishing at the bottom of the table outside of like your fans and your prestige as a club.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Leicester, they're facing a very significant financially future. And I think the Premier League, to be in it right now, means more than anything, even better than the Champions League, just purely off money. And Leicester are very, very close to going down, and we might not see them up again.
Yeah, well, like you said, it's super competitive once you go down. And yeah, look, it's not too late, but I guess that's my question is, you got to give Ranieri credit. He won the league. That buys him a lot of respect. But maybe they just need to rip the Band-Aid off and just go, look, we have to change the manager now. It's still not too late. There's 13 games to go. There's still a chance to claw their way out.
I think with the Champions League looming over them, they play Sevilla. I think it's on Thursday next week. I think that is the sort of his like saving grace, because I think he's going to get the opportunity to represent Leicester in the Champions League. He did deserve. He got them there, and I think it's unfair to sack him. But I understand why they could. Maybe a month ago. And I think if they get knocked out really badly, he could leave with like say 10 games to go. But I think he deserves a chance to represent Leicester in the Champions League, even though I accept that he's made mistakes.
Yeah, look, it's going to be interesting. Like you said, it's not too late. There's still time to turn it around. I can't see how they're going to do it, but it's not too late. But I think it's going to be a fascinating and gripping end to the season. What about your mob, Arsenal?
Well, I mean, they play Bayern Munich tonight, this morning, I guess, Thursday morning. And I expect that to get really, really ugly.
For Arsenal,
I think it's gonna get very ugly.
Same
with Leicester. I think a positive game against Sevilla could have implications in the league. So I mean, a good performance in the CL might translate into points, and if they win the next 2 or 3, then they're right out of it. As for Arsenal, I think like once you realize the title's gone, there's like kind of disappointment with fans, and I think this season just kind of needs to end from my point of view for Arsenal. I don't think anything can happen. I think the Champions League is too high to hope. I think that's the same for Arsenal. I think that's the same for Leicester. I can't see Man City winning it with their current problems.
No. But I think
as an English... Yeah.
Well, I just think for Arsenal, they just need to really fight now just to hold on to 4th.
Yeah, it's difficult, right? Because Arsene Wenger is so notorious about getting top four. So I mean, like, you just expect him to get it, even though the threat is very, very
the threat
dangerous.
is real. The threat from Liverpool and Man United is real, and Man United, like we've been saying for the last few weeks, they're slowly just kind of humming along now. They're kind of just under the radar now, but they're only 2 points behind Arsenal and Tottenham. And like I said, if you look at the perception, you think that Man United have had a terrible season, but things are just kind of ticking along nicely for them now. Liverpool, you never know what you're going to get week in, week out, but Arsenal, I think, have got a fight on their hands to make the top four.
Yeah, it's going to be very tight. There's going to be two real good teams that miss out this season. Mm-hmm. It's like a top six, as we've said a few times. So, yeah. I mean, there's going to be two teams that are going to maybe deserve to think they belong there and not going to get it. And I think Arsenal could potentially be one of those teams. Just as a fan point of view, actually, like, I just want Arsene Wenger to leave. So, like, I look at the threat of not getting Champions League, and I'm not like sure what it would mean. Yeah, I think like sometimes like clubs just need a new approach. And I think that with Adelaide, I think that with the Wanderers, I think that with Arsenal, and there's just a few teams that I think would improve by a change of tactics and formation.
Absolutely. And just on that, looking at the Champions League, last night's results.
How
PSG.
good was Paris Saint-Germain?
Yeah.
Right? Did you see the what's his name? United. Di Maria. His goal. Yep. He did this like little like fake with his like dropped his right shoulder and just curled. Like, it's one of the best goals I can think of seeing this season. Absolutely fantastic.
So is this the end of an era then for Barcelona and Messi? Like, is this or is this just a
how old is Messi? Is he 28?
I'm not sure. I think he'd probably be even older than that.
I don't think he's older than Ronaldo, and Ronaldo's 31, I think, 30.
Yeah. Look, I'm just wondering if this is the start of the decline for Barcelona now.
I don't know how like a Barcelona team with like Luis Suarez, Neymar, and like Messi could decline, but yeah, like I think this is like more about Paris, like
the rise of PSG.
Yeah, as a European club, like they've always been good in their national league and their League One,
which is a weak.
But
league.
This is like. They've really struggled in the Champions League, and I think this season has showed that they've become like a proper European super club.
Yeah, I mean, look, the way they just dismantled Barcelona, and Messi had a shocker, really.
He had a nightmare. He really did.
So yeah, I mean, and that's unheard of. So yeah, maybe that's more the talking point here is the rise of PSG as a genuine sort of European contender for the first time. But
I think, we're going to rate them in like the category of the Bayern Munichs of the world soon, if not already. And I think they're going to be one of those top four like clubs in Europe football that are going to be you want to avoid.
Well, they need to, if they can deliver those kind of results on a regular basis, then absolutely. But that's the question, because your Barcelonas and your Bayerns, they do it every time.
Sustained.
And like you said, Arsenal will be trembling, I think, going over to Bayern Munich. Like I said, it could get ugly.
Arsenal typically do okay in like a two-legged affair, but they always like choke in one of the games. So yeah, if they can keep it close in Germany tonight, then maybe at the Emirates they can make it competitive, but I don't expect them to go through. I think with Man City and Monaco, I don't know if you've seen, but they're one of like the most high-scoring teams in Europe football at the moment. With Napoli, like in terms of just attacking threat and their performances. So that's not an easy game for Man City. I think Sevilla are going to knock off Leicester.
Yep. Oh, yeah. I mean, look, Leicester's Champions League form has defied their league form, so I wouldn't be surprised if Leicester win this one. Maybe they're more suited to. I mean, they're still an unknown in the Champions League, whereas I think in the EPL they're just a known quantity now, and everybody knows what to expect from them. So maybe that's working for their favour in the Champions League. So I wouldn't be surprised if they still do win here and keep going in the Champions League. But
give me your predictions for tonight. There's two games: the Bayern Munich Arsenal game and the Madrid and Napoli.
I think Bayern Munich Arsenal is going to be a comfortable. I don't think it's going to be a complete demolition, but I just think it'll be a comfortable 3-0 for Bayern. I don't think Arsenal will put up much resistance. Real Madrid Napoli could be. That's a tough one. Like I said, Napoli not a bad side.
Very good at attacking. Yeah.
But again, Real Madrid, the Ronaldo factor. I think that one could be closer. I might give the points to Madrid on that one, but maybe a 2-1. 2-1 to Real, 3-0 for Bayern for me. What do you reckon?
I think both games will be 3-1 to the home team. I think Bayern Munich will score 3 or 4. I think Arsenal will score 1. Napoli should score against Madrid. I'm not sure defensively they're going to keep Madrid out. I think a 2-goal lead for both Madrid and Bayern Munich will give Arsenal and Napoli a chance in the home leg. But I expect the two big clubs to go through, like in a 2-legged affair.
I think so, yeah. Yep, that's a pretty safe bet.
Obviously, there's no EPL this weekend, I think, because it's the FA Cup, and then because of the FA Cup, there's quite a few fixtures not getting played because of delays and having games to be rescheduled. So there's not too much to preview from an EPL standpoint. So I think we're going to leave it there unless anything else you want to quickly chat about.
No. I think that's we've covered everything, got everything off our chest. So yeah, stay tuned next week where we will once again bring you the latest in our FFA watch.
Do you feel better after this week's FFA rant? Does it feel as good as last week?
It just lets me bring out all of the pent-up anger throughout the week on, whatever's been driving me nuts, traffic, work, whatever it is. I just unleash my fury. Yeah, the heat, the weather. I just take it all out on the FFA, and I think no better target. So stay tuned next week. We're going to unload again.
I'm sure they'll give us plenty of content. But until then, thanks for joining me once again, Edin.
Thank you.
And thank you everybody for listening. You can find us at www.theaverageaustralian.com, also at YouTube, SoundCloud, Patreon, where else? iTunes. Yeah, and until then, I'll see you all next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.